Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namanda, 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 Namanda. Namo Amida Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namanda, 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 Namanda. Please join me in reading the Golden Chain. I am a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. We'll now chant Junirai.
오가 조
役無女になく道府主任心身教依存子が将来未だ損依存無料法勉強無償修悪知識応答不体志望大法が将来未だ損が千非損苦毒寺修善無変妙海水小逆前言少女者永世修上小非法ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ願にしくとく平等性祭道本も大心往生ナモアミダ仏ナモアミダ仏ナモアミダ仏ナマンダナマンダナマンダナマンダナマンダ。Good morning. I'm happy to see so many people here today. Thank you for joining us for today's Sunday morning service. I'd like to start the next portion which will be the Dharma message. And the title for the message today is a continuation from last week, where I talked about seeking truth in troubled times. And today I'd like to talk about the importance of diversity in Buddhism. Will you please join me in Gassho for the Gosandai? Nirvana has innumerable names. It is impossible to give them in detail. I will list only a few. Nirvana is called extinction of passions, the uncreated, peaceful happiness, eternal bliss, true reality, Dharma body, Dharma nature, suchness, oneness, and Buddha nature. Buddha nature is none other than Tathagata. This Tathagata pervades the countless worlds. It fills the hearts and minds of the ocean of all beings. Thus, plants, trees, and land all attain Buddhahood. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. The passage I just shared with you, Shinran is expounding upon the usage of the term nirvana and its meaning in a passage from Pure Land Buddhism's master Shandao in his Hymns of the Nembutsu liturgy. The term Tathagata is an honorific for Buddha, often translated as one who has thus gone, or the one who, or the thus come one. There's a dynamic implication in this term. There's the Buddha, which has departed samsara, this world of suffering, and also the Buddha who has come to this world to liberate all beings from our suffering. I don't think of Buddhism as selfish, about saving ourselves only as individuals. It's about community, about working together so that we all might find liberation. In Shinran's explanation, he's saying that nirvana, Buddha, and our awakening, our liberation from suffering, is a promise that pervades the countless worlds. It fills the hearts and minds of all beings. Then he says that plants, trees, and the land all attain Buddhahood. To me, this is an amazing idea. It means that we're surrounded by the potential for our awakening, to seeing the world more clearly, to liberation from our suffering. But oftentimes we don't see it. This source of comfort is the very activity of Buddha in our teachings, but it's also in our everyday lives that we share with others. For myself, I feel saddest, most depressed, and most hurt when I start to see the world centered around myself. This sort of perspective is kind of like seeing a black and white movie or photo. Though such imagery can be beautiful, it can also be harsh and cold, and the information that it conveys is very limited. I have an old picture of my great-grandpa when he was a child, probably taken in the 20s. Apparently his dad, my great-great-grandpa, was a bootlegger during the Prohibition. The picture is black and white, but I can see that my great-grandpa and great-great-grandma is dressed in a picturesque gangster of that era. He's in a long trench coat and fedora, and my great-great-grandma is in a big, luxurious, fur-trimmed jacket. Also in that picture, you can see my great-grandpa, his brother, and their dog. They're all standing in front of an old car. I know that cars were rare in that part of Virginia at the time, so he must have had a lot of money and influence. I often wonder what color my great-grandma's fur coat was. What was the color of the car? What did the trees and flowers and grass look like? That photo only gives me a limited amount of information because it's in black and white. Similarly, if we watch the film The Wizard of Oz, which is an old one, but a good one, it starts off in black and white. But when Dorothy arrives in Oz, it becomes vivid as it's filled with color and unique characters. I believe that when we start to include more diverse perspectives into how we see our lives and the world around us, we become more dynamic and we grow. Our lives become more enjoyable. And we start to see things more honestly as they really are. When we start to consider our own lives, focusing only on what we feel and experience that as our truth, then our vision is clouded. It's biased and unclear. However, when we listen to voices and experiences that are different from our own, then not only we begin to grow and live a more fulfilled life, we have the opportunity to open ourselves up to the Dharma in more honest ways too. Dr. Maya Angelou says, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color." Living within a diversity of perspectives, which includes races, nationalities, genders, sexualities, abilities, and modes of thought, can enrich our lives. But we must also find value in each of these perspectives. It's one thing to find a means of coexisting with those who are different from us and treating them with equal respect and compassion. However, that's different from opening our hearts to and our own perspectives to make room for those differences, all while acknowledging the reasoning and the conditions of those different ways of being in the world. Professor George Dayai of Canada says that, quote, "Inclusion is not bringing people into what already exists. It is making a new space, a better space for everyone," end quote. I love this quote because it immediately made me think of the Pure Land. Diversity is a core value of our Jodo Shinshu Buddhist tradition. Amida's primal vow is the ultimate embrace of diversity. According to the myth of Amida Buddha, when Amida was Bodhisattva Dharmakara before becoming Buddha, he recognized the discrimination and inequality in the world, that not all beings were capable of liberation or accepted as they were, which is the very reason why he vowed to establish his Pure Land of Sukhavati, where all beings are ultimately equal. Many people see this story as literal events. And even if some of us find it too fantastical to accept Buddhist cosmology, the core message that all are worthy of compassionate acceptance, just as we are, is something that we can cling to as a part of our values and embrace as a practice of inclusion and diversity. My hope is that we will all see this as part of our Buddhist practice for two main reasons. The first, which I've touched on, is that our lives become richer when we learn and incorporate narratives of difference into our own outlook on life. If the Buddha Dharma pervades all beings, even rocks, trees, and land, then there is no place that does not have the potential to open our eyes to a deeper understanding of reality. This allows us to learn from the Dharma as it is presented from differing experiences of race, nationality, religion, sexuality, gender, ability, and so many more. Practicing diversity and inclusion in our own lives helps us to understand our world more clearly. The second reason for this is that practicing diversity and inclusion is a practice of compassion. Around the world, no matter where we go, folks are excluded, marginalized, or experience other forms of violence due to their difference in religion, skin color, gender, sexuality, ability, and other aspects of their identity. Largely, the world sees difference as bad. So it's very easy to exclude those who are different from our lives. Like many of us, I've experienced what it's like to be excluded for how I look, act, dress, believe, and even for who I love, and it hurts. Having even one other person love and accept me for who I am is tremendously healing. If each of us practices diversity and inclusion, then we will have the capacity for understanding systems of oppression that uphold racist, chauvinistic, and LGBTQ-phobic norms that cause so much violence and suffering. As part of his messages to our Dharma school at Berkeley Buddhist Temple, Reverend Dr. David Matsumoto frequently taught us that we are all Buddhas to be. And I think that this idea holds a reliable message of hope and ethical behavior, which supports a concerted effort to practice diversity and inclusivity. If we're all on the path toward Buddhahood, when we ultimately share those core values of mutual respect and that we can learn from one another. Knowing that we are on the path toward becoming Buddha can also help us to be kinder to ourselves and others through cultivating forgiveness and friendship. In closing, I would like to express my deepest hopes that we can all aspire to practice diversity and inclusivity by making space for all voices to be cared for and heard within our community. We do so with compassion for one another in our Buddhist family as we all walk the path together as Buddhas to be. Please join me in Kansho. Nirvana has innumerable names. It is impossible to give them in detail. I will list only a few. Nirvana is called extinction of passions, the uncreated, peaceful happiness, eternal bliss, true reality, Dharma body, Dharma nature, suchness, oneness, and Buddha nature. Buddha nature is none other than Tathagata. This Tathagata pervades the countless worlds. It fills the hearts and minds of the ocean of all beings. Thus, plants, trees, and land all attain Buddhahood. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, namanda, namanda. Thank you for joining us for today's service. I'm going to stop the recording now, but if you'd like to stay around and chat, I'll be happy to talk with everyone and maybe we can get to know each other a little better.